Hello, John Terrell here of Cultic Cube. Pull a chair up to the fireside at Chateau Cube, where we discuss life, limited magic, and cube draft. I'm honored to be joined today by freelance illustrator Joshua Raphael. He's the artist who illustrated our preview card that Wizards of the Coast gave us for Crimson Vow. That card is Sawblade Slinger. Over on the Cultic Cube YouTube channel, I have a short preview video for that card, so you should check that out if you haven't. I'm so excited that Josh consented to sit down with us. He is an artist working out of Indonesia, and he has worked for Wizards of the Coast in a few capacities, both illustrating materials for Dungeons & Dragons as well as our beloved Magic the Gathering. He's worked on other games that you may know as well, such as Eternal and Flesh and Blood. We have a free-ranging conversation here, wherein Josh talks about what makes him excited about fantasy art, his influences, the process of working with WotC and back and forth with art directors, and he talks about illustration of our preview card, Sawblade Slinger in particular. Josh and I overcame a number of technical hurdles in making this conversation happen on tape for you all. Ultimately, our call quality isn't ideal, so apologies for that, but I think it's perfectly serviceable, and I hope that our conversation is well worth a listen. So here is Joshua Raphael. Well, wow, we're here. Welcome. Thanks so much for sitting down to chat. This is awesome. I'm really excited.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me, John.
We are here since we just got a brand new preview card for Crimson Vow that was designed by you, illustrated by you, and we've got some super awesome art on it. I'm excited to hear about that whole process and your interactions with WotC and the design of the card. But maybe we can start more generally with some introduction to you. So who is Josh? What is your story?
So thanks for having me, first of all. My name is Joshua. I'm a freelance illustrator who likes to paint celestial beings such as deities, gods, angels, demons, and mythical creatures, especially dragons. Also, I like to play Monster Hunter games in my free time and look at cute dogs and ducks videos.
Okay. That's super cool. I've been perusing your ArtStation page and really enjoying this glimpse at the many awesome works of art you've created. And there are many, many dragons. So I see your love of dragons.
I really love dragons.
Yeah, dragons in all sorts of different styles. It's awesome. You've done a lot of work on Dungeons and Dragons, it looks like, as well, and made a bunch of dragons for them.
Yeah.
So what's your background with Magic?
I don't really have a vast experience playing the game. I've only played it for a while when I just knew Magic around 2 years ago. And the one who introduced me to Magic was my internship mentor. He taught me how to play in Standard and Commander format, and it was really fun. I also played with a couple of my friends on Magic Arena, and my favorite deck colors are red and blue. I love Nif Mizzet.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's good. That's a classic dragon. That's awesome. WotC needs to get you illustrating Niv Mizzet then, and Nicol Bolas, and I don't know, some of these. Ugin. Yeah, you could totally do that. In fact, one of your D&D dragons I was just looking at would be a perfect fit for Ugin. It was some like platinum dragon or something.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Bahamut, the platinum dragon. That's cool.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Ugin all over, I feel. How did you become an artist? What's your trajectory to this career?
I don't have anything really grand. I just really want to have fun painting cool stuffs that I like for a living and for as long as I could. But I would like to paint my very own personal imaginary world someday and make an art book out of it.
That's really cool. So is this something that you have designed art for? Is this a project that you're developing?
Yeah, yes. I want to make this project as a lifetime project. You can see some of it in my art station. It's called God Hunt.
God Hunt.
Yeah, God Hunt. It's like God fighting other gods.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Some like War of the Gods, Clash of the Titans kind of thing.
Yeah, like that.
You've designed a sort of logo for it, it looks like.
Oh, actually, it was my friend who designed the logo, and
Oh,
she's
really?
very good at it. Yeah, yeah.
It looks super professional for sure. When I was looking at your ArtStation page, I just imagined God Hunt was another IP that I wasn't familiar with, like Magic or D&D or Flesh and Blood, Eternal,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You've designed for all these games. That's amazing.
Yeah, she's really good.
Yeah. Oh, would you want to give it a shout out to your friend? Who's the logo designer?
The designer was Deandra. I can put her Instagram in the description, maybe.
Okay, perfect. So, why do you make art? What do you love about it?
I just painting a lot of stuff gives me happiness like no other. Things good.
That's super exciting that this artistic endeavor is something that you can do for a living, right? Something that makes you so
Yeah,
happy
yeah.
is something you can pursue as a career. You clearly have this intense focus on high fantasy art and real expertise in creating these mythic creatures of high fantasy art. What is it about this particular genre that appeals to you?
Fantasy art has everything that technically we couldn't have in this day and age. And most importantly, it has dragons and angels and wizards. I noticed this genre around the time that I watched Lord of the Rings in my childhood, and the movies are basically what shaped my general interest in this field. And much later on, when I was in college, I found out that I could paint fantasy stuff and for a living, and that's amazing. You know, I did not have any second thought when I decided that I want this to be my career.
Oh, yeah, that's great. So, have you been drawing dragons since you were a kid?
Yeah, yeah. But really, I started on robots, I think, Power Rangers and stuff.
Mm,
Then
right.
when I saw Lord of the Rings, I just dealt dragons, man.
That was a formative experience. That's super cool. I love J.R.R. Tolkien and The Lord of the Rings. I recently read The Hobbit to my two young sons. They just loved it.
It's cool.
And we watched the Rankin and Bass animated version of The Hobbit from like 1976 or 1977. Do you know that like cartoon Hobbit
No,
movie? It was an American production, but it was mainly Japanese animators who were working on it. And the animation group, I don't remember what they called themselves at the time, but they went on to form Studio Ghibli,
oh,
later. It's this interesting slice of history where you see this precursor to the Studio Ghibli style, and they're doing Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit.
it's amazing.
Well, how would you describe your own artistic style, your aesthetic?
Yeah, I'd like to describe my personal aesthetic with messy but cool. Because when I was starting out fantasy works, I look up to Bullock, or maybe you guys know it as Wang Ling. I adore him so much that I try to copy his style. Rough, messy, but beautiful. It's really good. And that was me in college. Then when I went to my internship, my mentor practically taught me how to make much more proper, cleaner, more detailed, and work with high readability. After that, my knowledge improved much more, but I still find more beauty in much messier artworks.
Yeah, I can totally see that. So you've got a very loose, sort of impressionistic style, and it feels evocative. It feels like it has an emotional impact that is very different from the emotional impact of something that tries to be photorealistic.
Yeah, yeah, because it what makes a painting, the looseness, you know.
Right. So you mentioned Wulop as an artist who's a major inspiration to you.
Yes.
Who are some of your other artistic heroes?
The other ones are Chris Ran, another magic artist. Chris
Yeah.
Ran, Liusla Sahido, Alex Flores from Riot Games, and then Carla Ortiz and Cynthia Shepard, the
Okay.
senior art director.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Have you worked with Cynthia Shepard on any of the projects that you've done for Wizards?
Unfortunately, not yet. I don't
Yeah.
know why, but
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Do you have a particular piece of magic art, either your own or someone else's, that you particularly like?
My own magic art that I like my first card, actually, the Moon Valley region,
Oh, yeah.
the dragon one. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, the dragon for sure.
the dragon one. And then Edgar's Awakening, which is just previewed recently.
Oh, yeah, right. We just
Mm,
saw that a day or two ago.
yeah, yeah. And there's a lot more, which is not released yet, so I don't think I could talk about them. But
Right.
I mostly like all of my legendary creatures.
Yeah, Moonveil Regent, that's a beautiful card. It's this dragon with its wings extended, and it's got these just gorgeous stained glass wings that look really quite delicate.
Thanks, man.
The wings are so delicate, not only in the texture of the glass, but also just the shape of the wing. And it looks like Tiffany stained glass lampshade or something. But then the dragon itself, it's this lithe, slender creature, but a powerful one. It's a great meeting of that delicacy and that power.
Yeah.
Is there any magic art that you? I mean, is there a magic card that you particularly like?
I like Leos Lasaidos Traxos, Scourge of Crew. What else? Christian's Angraf. And then basically his Tiamat is the best one.
Oh yeah, okay. Let me look up some of these things. Oh yeah, Chris Ron's Tiamat. Right, so that was from the recent Adventures in the Forgotten Realms set. That's cool. Yeah. So Traxos, that's interesting. So Traxos, Scourge of Krug, was from Dominaria. It's illustrated by Luis Lasahido. What are some things about this work of art that appeal to you?
Traxos was the art that made me want to work on magic.
Really?
Yeah. So when I was in my internship, my office has the Dominaria art book, and I was scrolling through it, and I found Traxos, and it was really good, and I want to involve in the world that makes this.
Yeah, it's unique in as much as it is a dragon, as you like you love, but it's an unusual dragon. It's this mechanistic thing that's composed of all of these different steel rods and spikes, and it's got this filigree about it. So it's a very unusual take on a dragon. That's neat. And it's cool that we've got that little person in the bottom right corner to give you some scale, and we get a sense of how.
That's really cool.
And then Omnath and Tiamat, right? So some of these other amazing legendary monsters. And these are pictures that are glowing in different ways, that play with different kinds of light that's radiating from them and almost sort of emanating from them. This seems like something that you are exceptional at doing as well, of having these creatures that are lit from within, lit with their own power, creatures that are aflame in various ways. So you've talked about Lord of the Rings as a text that has been a profound influence for you. Are there any other films or video games or novels that have been formative or that inspire you?
I can't remember much, but I only can remember Lord of the Rings as my biggest influence, and Monster Hunter.
And Monster Hunter
Monster Hunter represent what I like most about fantasy. Little human fighting against big monsters and dragons with big weapons, and all in beautiful and cinematic compositions. It's really good.
Yeah, that's cool. I've never played any of the incarnations of Monster Hunter. I should check it out. I talked to the magic artist Young Hao Han when I was working on a card I was previewing for WotC for Modern Horizons 2. It's a card called Foundation Breaker. Your comment about Monster Hunter is great, because when I was talking to Young Hao, he mentioned Shadow of the Colossus as a video game franchise that inspires him.
Very similar.
Yeah, right. And he's interested in similar things about it. You know, the tiny human who's going up against these awesome forces, that just occupy an expansive horizon, and got a confrontation with the awesome. So I love that in your art, you've got all sorts of different people represented, just a whole panoply of people of different races, different cultural backgrounds, different genders. So I wonder how you think about representation in your own work. I mean, I love how you make people who are these characters that are sympathetic, characters that are awesome and powerful, also characters though who aren't just hypersexualized, who aren't naked in the art. So anyway, how do you juggle all of these things or think about representation?
I just believe that every race and gender has their own unique beauty, and I would love to include various race and gender in my own artworks, and especially in my God Hand.
I pause for a moment to say a word about the charity that we're sponsoring today. It is the Good Food Institute. The Good Food Institute is devoted to research and promotion of alternatives to traditional animal meat proteins. Using animals to convert plants to meat is incredibly inefficient. It takes 9 calories of food fed to a chicken to get 1 calorie back in the form of animal meat. And chickens are among the most efficient at converting crops to meat. Livestock provides just 18% of calories consumed by humans, but it takes up 77% of global farmland. The meat production industry is inefficient, cruel, unsustainable, and it leads to bad health outcomes, particularly through its use of antibiotics. We could make the world a better place if we were all to become vegetarians. However, the Good Food Institute recognizes that this is an unlikely course of action for many people. And speaking for myself, I, a Texan, enjoy my barbecue and would find it difficult to become wholly vegetarian, even as I try to limit meat consumption in my day-to-day life. The Good Food Institute supports research into plant-based meats, which are meant to closely model real meat, and they also promote lab-grown meat or cultivated meat, which is an exciting new frontier for meat production. The Good Food Institute has a 100% rating on Charity Navigator. I'm donating all of my ad revenues since my last podcast to the GFI, and I hope you'll consider joining me in a donation. If you would like to support this show directly, I have a Patreon page at Cultic Cube. I also have affiliate relationships with TCG Player, Inked Gaming, and Amazon. And I recently launched the Cultic Bestiary line of tokens, available on Etsy. These are tokens which are patterned after medieval illuminated manuscripts, such as the monks would produce, with fantastical creatures of all sorts. It's a super fun series. I hope you check it out. Thank you for your support. I wonder if you could tell me a little bit about working with Wizards of the Coast. What are some of the exciting things about working on commission this way and working as part of a team that has a creative vision? Or what are some of the challenges that this poses?
Every assignment they gave to me really are exciting. Every time I got a brief, I get really excited that I cannot sleep for hours,
Oh, yeah.
I cannot wait to work on the assignment. I cannot wait to seek all the references I need and planning the color palette, But I really have difficulties, not just for Wizards, but almost every client that I have ever worked with, even when they had provided a very specific character design or loose concepts with much freedom to explore the design, I have trouble designing my own character. I'm taking so much time just designing the outfits. I'm glad that I could deliver all of my assignments on time. Yeah, so that's the challenge.
When you're commissioned to work on sets like Crimson Vow, because I know that you've done multiple pieces for Crimson Vow, we've already seen a few, and maybe there are more coming. Do they give you all of the assignments at once? Or do they give you an assignment and then you go back and forth for a while and develop the art for it, and then they give you another assignment?
They gave me the assignment for Crimson Vow in 3 waves. So that's like, each wave is like around 1.5 months apart. So I was given like 2 assignments per wave. I work on 2, and then another month, next month, I work on another 2, and the other month, and next month, I work on another 2.
Okay, that's super interesting. So you've got a month or a month and a half to work on 2 pieces of art for them.
Yeah.
That must be a challenging schedule as well, given your description of how much time and care you put into just the development of the piece, thinking about the piece before you even set pen to paper, so to speak.
Yeah.
And how long in advance of the set coming out do you begin work? Like, when did WotC contact you about Crimson Vow?
Okay, so Crimson Vow, I worked on my first card. It was around October or November last year, I think. That's my first card. And then the last card I worked for Crimson Vow is on this year's January.
Wow. It must be quite an experience to see this work that you've done. It probably feels like quite a long time ago, stuff you were working on a year ago that's just coming out now, and you've had to just sit on it. Nobody can see it, right? And people are only now getting to reveal it, and people are coming to appreciate it. That's cool.
It feels really long.
I bet it does. Yeah, I can't imagine. So the card that WotC gave me to preview is Sawblade Slinger. And in fact, for those who may have missed a little preview video I did, why don't I let me pull up the card and read the card to you guys. All right, so Sawblade Slinger. This is an uncommon. It's a green creature, costs 3 and a green, a human archer. It is a 4/3, and the text reads, when Sawblade Slinger enters the battlefield, choose up to 1. Destroy target artifact an opponent controls, or Sawblade Slinger fights target zombie an opponent controls. So that's our card, illustrated by the great Joshua Raphael. To begin with, especially for those who are listening at home on the podcast, could you describe the art to us a little bit? Describe what you've represented here?
Working on this card was really challenging for me, even though in the prompt is really straightforward. So I started with scribbling the gestures on my sketchbook first. I always do that. And then I transfer it to digital. But when I transferred this one to digital, I second doubted the gestures I had made before. So I completely redo the sketches, and I ended up with the one that I sent. I wanted to show that she's dominated the zombie completely by making her sitting on the corpse. And then the sketch was approved by Taylor, and he said it was great. And then I start to collect my references for the lighting condition, like how the light hits the characters, and so I use webapp.magicposter.com to set up the lighting, which is free to use. Also, I took references from my Monster Hunter World character. I posed him with a huge bowgun, which I also took reference from. Then I collected a bunch of refs from another artist's work for the color. And then I just painted it accordingly to my references, and the work is done.
That's it. Simple as that.
Yeah. Taylor asked me to remove the Sawblade on the zombie's head because I think it was too gory. And then I removed it, and then it was approved.
That's great. Yeah. So there's the circular Sawblade. You've still got a circular Sawblade that's sort of sticking out of the zombie's arm, maybe, but it's not. Yeah. I see what you mean. It's not super gory. But you had this concept art where you also had a Sawblade in the zombie's skull. Wow. That was a bridge too far for Watsy, I guess. Yeah, she's got a heck of a crossbow that she's got slung over her shoulder. A crossbow that's got a whole array of bolts, like the sort of arrows that the crossbow shoots. Yeah. It's like a repeating crossbow, I guess. And she's in a cemetery. There's quietly in the background this rather evocative angel statue. It's such an atmospheric picture. Like it looks almost as if it's raining, but it's raining these sort of gentle beams of light or something from the heavens. It's a cool effect. And designing the character's face, was this something that you had a reference for as well? Like, how do you develop individual characters?
The art description was specifically asked me to draw a Japanese female. Then I just look at Japanese models. Then I just paint according to my references.
That's great.
It's really straightforward.
I saw on your ArtStation, as I looked at some of your wonderful images there, you sometimes mention working with friends who do modeling for you, or maybe who provide reference images for you, or something like this. Do you prefer working with living people who are providing inspiration to you, or do you prefer sort of assembling all of these different reference images like you're describing that you did for Sawblade Slinger?
Both can work really nice, but I think working with real living people can produce much more believable pictures, because I took it from reality.
I wonder if you can talk a little bit about the character design in terms of costuming and armor and weaponry and so on. What did you have any inspirations for these things, or how did you go about imagining this awesome zombie hunting warrior in this gothic horror world?
It was really difficult, actually. For the costuming, I just took references from the previously made, I forgot what the soldier is named. Like they have this kind of, they are wearing brown and spiky armor. I think the one that made my primary references is Matt Stewart and Chris Run.
Okay, that's cool. And then you designed her weaponry. I guess you were inspired by this Monster Hunter character that you have. That's super cool that you've got a little piece of yourself in your own gaming life that you introduced into the artwork. I love it.
Yeah.
So, what advice would you give to somebody who's interested in pursuing art as a career and who's interested in fantasy art in particular and the sorts of things that you do?
I'd say go for it. And if you do go for it, practice a hell lot. It might seem very tedious in the micro, but if you gave it your all, you'll be stunned with how good you can actually be. Also, try to be honest and try to break down and analyze your favorite pieces about what makes it good to you and try to incorporate it into your own works. Also, community and colleagues could help a lot when you have found at least one with the same passion and drive as you.
That makes perfect sense to me. Community is so important in all of our endeavors. It's great that you have that community and have a support network and people that you can chat with and give you good and helpful critiques. How important was education in your development as an artist? You talked about finding your passion in college. Did you study arts in college? Did you go to an art school? Would you recommend them to people who are interested in being professional artists?
I was majoring in animation, actually, not illustration. So it's not connected. Illustration and animation not really connected to each other.
Okay.
So college was fun for me, and I knew a lot of people, my connections primarily from my college. But I mostly studied my knowledge from internet, YouTube.
It's easier and easier these days to teach yourself things, right? Given the resources of the internet. Yeah. YouTube has been a gift for that sort of thing. Well, I know that you aren't a super enfranchised Magic player, but you've dabbled in the game. That's awesome. Do you have any favorite Magic memory?
Playing Commander with my intern mentor until late at night at the office. It's really fun. Really fun times.
Was Niv Mizzet your commander?
No. I use my mentor's card because I don't have any.
Right. That's cool. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to mention? Is there anything I should have asked you but didn't?
Not really, I think.
Very good. Where can people get a hold of you? Where can people go to appreciate your awesome work, either for Magic or all of these other cool projects that you have developed?
People can check out my work at artstation.com/JSRaphael, and people can contact me at jsraphael57@gmail.com.
Okay. And we will put links to all of your various media and contact information in the show notes, of course. Yeah, well, Josh, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us about your awesome artwork. This was a wonderful opportunity, and I learned so much.
Yeah. No, thank you.